Assalamualaikum. Hi everyone. Since I established a YouTube channel, today I'm going to record a video which will be helpful for the WPRs, even they are working already or serving to Saudi Aramco, or there are a few upcoming students or the professionals they're looking to be best WPR to serve Saudi Aramco, especially in Saudi Arabia. Let me be more clear that there are three books. All three books might be sometime one exam with a training center, and sometimes they have three different exams. But remember, minimum 80% marks you need to achieve. Not difficult for the people who are fully passionate learner. Uh, they have some zeal, eagerness, and some better energy to be the best WPR. They're not the money maker. They think this is one of the noblest profession as a front leader before starting any sort of project. Of course, this permit would be a legal document, so they'll be the one to be signing along with Saudi Aramco. So it's a huge respect as well. So once you be honest with you and you start, thinking that this is one of the best ibadah, because saving one life, saving the whole humanity, and killing one person, killing the whole humanity. That's what our Islam said, right? So just in a very briefly, let me just mention that there are three books. So mostly the training centers, what we do is we teach, has a recognition and control, the number one book for 2 days. Within 2 days, we just make sure you understand how to identify hazards and how to put better controls. So let me just mention what is this book is based on the information of GI 2.100. There are several GIs established and developed by Saudi Aramco, even well implemented. But so as a WPR, you truly need to remember which GI belong to this particular book or system. So 2.100. Now, what are the key objectives of this training? So you must be able to recognize hazards. So you have to be a better hazards recognizer and the best controller, of course, but correctly without any help. So make sure you are capable to identify the best practices or the bad practices and hazards and conditions, could be unsafe conditions that can lead to an incident. That is the first enabling objective of this training. And then list methods to recognize and control. So you truly need to understand what are the best methods to recognize and control hazards. And then of course, especially in Saudi Aramco, what kind of common workplace hazards are there and their associated control, that would be your best technical ability, or logically you need to be sound, so your concepts must be clear. I noted many of my trainees, they try to memorize. Yeah, no doubt it's another good way to be a better knowledgeable person, but the best thing is clear your concept. Like within this book, what you are learning, how to identify hazards, how to put some better controls as per Saudi Aramco theory, as per Saudi Aramco GI 2.100, as per Saudi Aramco's 81 years experience, as per even your experience, what you have, if you have worked anywhere within any company, how they were identifying the hazards and putting some controls. But oil and gas industry is a high hazardous industry. So of course, things would be all the time would be in a red zone. So of course we have to be more careful. That is why we get more salaries, more better benefits in oil and gas industry, because it's a high hazardous industry, right? So what we truly need to learn, how to identify hazards or a kind of conditions or the practices, and also what are the best methods to recognize and putting some controls, and how are we gonna recognize the common workplace hazards associated controls, especially in Saudi Aramco. So let's start with part 1.1. Identify practices, hazards, and conditions that can lead to an incident. So before we start thinking in your mind, what is a hazard? before you jump into Saudi Aramco theories, why don't you think by yourself, what is a hazard? Hazard means something dangerous, something, a source which might can create anything which can be harmful, anything which can create harm, right? So let's now understand what Saudi Aramco is saying about it. So hazard is anything that can cause harm to people, environment, assets, and even the business itself. That means one hazard can destroy everything. That is why one fire incident, the whole industry is finished. One Mecca incident, the overall goodwill of Bin Laden is over. And that is why they are crying for business, even though they have some projects, but under very direct, strict control of Saudi government. So Saudi government will not trust, the market will not trust anymore because that incident, was a terrible incident. And I hope you got the idea. So one terrible incident can destroy the overall image of the company, and then no customer want to join or want to work with any vendor or supplier whose accident graph going up and up, right? That is why we truly need to understand how much we need to be capable to identify hazards, and of course how we're going to put some control. So what is safety then? So before again, to understand Saudi Aramco definitions, why don't you think what is safety? So that means it's a systematic way to make sure everyone is safe, or it's a systematic way to make sure our assets are safe. It's a systematic way to make sure nothing will happen to the environment or to the assets of the company or even to the people or employees of our company. So, but as per Saudi Aramco, it's a freedom. It's a freedom from risk or harm, loss or injury. So you need to create a zero injury club or zero loss club or zero accident club or incident club, even though it looks impossible, but on the other side, we all believe that everything is possible, right? So it's a freedom from risk or harm. Now, a big question, is it possible to do something 100% safely? And I would say, is it possible to do 100% safe, something 100% safely every time? The examples are, consider if you are driving, every day if you are driving, can you ensure your 100% safety every day? Consider you are the best driver, you have the best car even. What about the brains of others? What about the road condition? What about the weather, unexpected weather condition? What about the sandstorm, or heavy rains in some cases? So 100% safety, no doubt, is a big question mark, but still we need to pretend, still we need to believe, yes, 100% safety is possible. We can try for zero accident, you know. So that is why some examples are there. What about driving? What about flying an aircraft and scuba diving, or even crossing the street, and especially working in an oil and gas plant? 100% safety would be a big question. Because oil and gas industry is a high hazardous industry, that is why Saudi Aramco, they have invested a lot of money to establish and develop some programs and processes for our protection, because what Saudi Aramco wants to help us, to prevent injuries and illnesses. And Saudi Aramco has many program, processes, procedures, and standards in place to protect you. Now, what is our job? To understand, to follow, to read, to understand all these procedures and standards and start following them. And you as a WPR should never compromise with Saudi Aramco safety regulations. If you start compromising, trust me, you will be the killer. And if you don't compromise and you convince your management, look, safety is important. Otherwise, let's try an accident and see the outcome, right? So you must have a convincing power to, because I noted many excuses, the WPR say, or nobody listen as the safety manager, or sometimes the project manager, sometimes the general manager, they push us very harshly and say, just fulfill and get the permit and don't waste our time. But trust me, you are the one going to sign this permit, right? And if you are the signatory, that means you are the legally responsible front leader. Because what you are doing, you are signing a permit, can be cold work permit, can be hot work, can be CSE, can be even EO, LB, equipment opening line break permit. But once you are signing, this is not an ordinary document anymore. It's a legal document. And if something happens to that project, like you tick everything blindly and you didn't stop and you just thought everything will be okay. So project manager is giving some guarantee, but later on, they'll hands up and they're gonna say, look, here's the WPR. So there is a WPI from Saudi Aramco side, like work permit issuer, and your company have a WPR in shape of U. And then both parties are signing a document, and you think it's just a format? No, no, no. It's a legal document. That is why several safety professionals they are behind the bar, including sometimes the WPRs even. So we truly need to understand, what causes incidents to prevent them. So two major portions we need to understand. Number one, as incidents are caused by unsafe acts because people choose to do something unsafe or not following safety procedures. Like you have 500 employees at one project. So for me, to be very honest, there are 500 different brains. I can manage maybe 5,000 machines quite easily, but it's really hard to manage 500 different brains because they are belong to different country, different cultures, different education level. Even someone is negative, someone is positive, someone is pessimistic, someone is optimistic. So different. It's a mixture of different nationalities and cultures and backgrounds and experience. And someone have no common sense even. So, but you hired them, and now you have a team. So of course. There would be some unsafe acts, and if you don't train them and you don't supervise them properly, of course this unsafe acts graph will go up and up, and more unsafe acts mean more chances, more probability of accidents or incidents. Same way, unsafe condition, like example is equipment not well maintained, missing safety guards. So all unsafe conditions would be another terrible source of possible incidents or accidents, right? So let's take few more examples of unsafe act, like operating equipment without proper training and certification. Like you are operating a forklift, uh, but unfortunately you don't have any certification, you don't have any training, no authorization. But since you know how to operate a forklift and you start operating, but in fact you're not authorized, you're not certified, you're not trained, so still is an unsafe act. Removing or disabling safety devices. In one of the companies, since I'm the safety auditor as well, so in one of the company I noted, there were some safety sensors attached with the guard, and they just bypass. I noted, the machine operator, he put this tape on it, and I asked him why you are disabling the safety devices. So he mentioned, that is what guided by the maintenance supervisor because they don't have time for this machine, so they are busy with some others. So production is important. The production manager is saying the machine should not stop, just keep going on and produce the products, and we need the products. Even you're gonna be killed, we damn care. This is how sometimes we are killing the people, and motivating and pushing them to disable safety devices. Using defective equipment, that's another terrible unsafe act, and taking shortcuts and not following checklists or procedures. Shortcut is another, terrible human nature, to be very honest, we are facing it. And we always blame, oh, company management was pushing me hard. Okay, they're gonna push, but you should not take shortcuts. If you need a full body harness, get it. If you need a better scaffolding platform, so make sure it is well erected and also passed by the QC rather than you are just going to take. If you believe the ladder is not in good condition, don't tell your supervisor you are a hero and you can still work. If you believe full body harness is not available, and don't try to be the superhero that I can work without a full body harness. So even though we're gonna discuss as per Saudi Aramco, what are the real root causes of shortcuts? Why people love to take shortcuts. Like So there is another example of unsafe act: failure to secure, like lockout, tagout, fall protection, improper use of equipment. And let's take a few examples of unsafe conditions like inadequate guards or safety devices, unsafe walkways and working surfaces, damaged, defective, incorrect equipment, extreme weather. That's another reason. So unsafe acts, safety hazards and unsafe acts include what? Operating equipment without authority or certification. Like I mentioned, you are not a crane certified crane operator, then you don't have any authority to operate a crane. Even though you know how to operate, because it's just like push, push, push few buttons. But on the other side, there is a huge risk because you are not authorized, you are not certified. And if LPD, like Loss Prevention Department of Saudi Aramco, notice and find out you as a violator, of course, it would be a biggest issue, not only for you, even for the company. That is why mostly the professionals and the companies, they are being blacklisted because they are not following Saudi Aramco rules and regulations, or even they are not respecting the code of conduct of Saudi Aramco. So sometimes you have full body harness, but you are unable to wear or failure to warn. There are sometimes failure to give some warnings even. Same way, make sure if there is any chance of a failure to secure, operating an improper speed. That's another unsafe act. Making safety device inoperable and removing safety devices or using defective equipment and poor maintenance and using equipment improperly. Now, that is why there are plenty of unsafe acts and conditions. So that is the biggest reason Saudi Aramco created a loss prevention policy. We call it LP policy as well. And what are the key elements within this policy? The loss prevention policy reminds you that you are responsible to what? Know your safety responsibilities. So your safety, first of all, your responsibility. So safety starts from you. Don't think that the safety supervisor or the WPR or the safety officer will always be coming and giving you reminder that be safe, be safe, be safe. Yes, they are a continual reminder, but on the other side, your safety first of all is your responsibility. So make sure you follow it up. And in one of the company, what I did, we had a strong meeting with the HR department, and we told them don't issue any offer letter or a kind of employment agreement until you write this condition that you are responsible for safety, for quality, and for credibility of the company, even credibility of yourself. So make sure you are responsible. And once you sign this responsibility, automatically your brain start becoming responsible. And within this policy, another element is identify and eliminate hazards prior to starting the job. So proactive approach. It's not like you simply started the project and now you are identifying, oh, plenty of hazards are there. So what should I do? Or no. Prior to starting it. That is why there is GSI, joint site inspection. There is JSA. There is some work permit. Different options are there which you need to fulfill, and it's not like a blind take. That's why we do sometimes the risk assessment also, before we start or any job. So take safety courses. That's another important element of LP policy. That is why this training, WPR, first they need to attend 4 days work permit receiver training from any authorized training partner of Saudi Aramco. And then, of course, follow all safety procedures and standards and rules. That's another part of this LP policy. Be prepared to respond to emergencies. So be active, be prepared all the time, because you never know when things would be unexpectedly out of control. So be ready, be ready. I told this oil and gas industry is a highly hazardous industry. So we need to be well prepared proactively, especially to get respond to different kind of emergencies. Like if there is a fire hazard or H2s, so you must be familiar how many muster points are there, or in which direction you need to run, or how you're gonna keep yourself safe, right? Because this is part of LP policy as well. And even without HIP, like hazard identification plan, or without ERP, emergency response plan, even they will not let us start a project within Saudi Aramco anywhere. So report incidents to help others avoid them in the future. That's another important element of this policy. You must be reporting the incidents. If you are hiding, it's a very terrible violation of Saudi Aramco standards. Even it's a legal violation, hiding incidents or accidents. Now, in the workplace, an unsafe act is a task or a job done in a way that may threaten to health or the safety of workers. It's a safety. Knocking on a wall with a wrench to open it is an example of unsafe act. Performing a job with a required certification or not having a required work permit is also an unsafe act. Now, taking shortcuts, trying to accomplish work in a hurry or try to save time or even try to impress your boss is kind of, these are safety hazards. So not following safety rules and procedure is the number one cause of incidents in Saudi Aramco. So might be the examiner can create a question here. Oh, dash is the number one cause of incidents in Saudi Aramco. So he can give different options, and one of the option could be rules and procedures. So make sure you remember. I told you, any sentence, any word can be a question and can be an answer. Now you need to have a micro level study and make sure you behave like an examiner and as a learner as well. So two-way, you start understanding and reading the material and start creating questions like an examiner, and then find the answer again like a trainee. So through this way you'll be more comfortable in your study of this work permit system. Why do people continue to take shortcuts on the job? Because it's a human nature to want to complete a task as quick as possible. The demands of the job or the organization causing employees to act unsafely. These are the excuses mostly. The employee tries to impress the boss with their level of production. Oh, if I'll be working more, if I'll give more production or kind of more jobs I'll be doing, might be my boss will be happy and he'll give me some increment or some bonus or maybe a reward as well. So they are in a rush to get the job done. Should you use the safety checklist? Start thinking in your mind. Should we use safety? Yes, absolutely. We can. But remember, if you are in a rush, you may run through a safety checklist without actually stopping to evaluate each item properly. If you are in a rush, you may run through a safety checklist without actually stopping to evaluate each item properly. So it's not like blindly just tick, tick, tick. Like in one of the company, I asked the forklift operator, can you show me some of your daily inspection, forklift inspection record? And I noted every checklist almost, whatever I checked, 100% ticks were there. And I asked the guy, why 100% ticks are there? That means nothing is wrong with your forklift. Everything is 100% perfect. And then I told him, can you show me your forklift? And trust me, the safety belt was not buckling. The forks were trembling here and there. They are loose one. And then the backup warnings and this beep sounds were not working properly. Horn was not working. And the overall condition of the forklift, especially a lot of scratches were there. That means he was hitting to some pillars or maybe some machines and hiding the incidents. And in the checklist, he just mentioned that everything is okay. Even the tires quality was not good enough. So then I asked, do you know what you were ticking? So he mentioned, sorry, I don't know English, because then why you were ticking? That's what my safety officer told me to do it. He mentioned just tick, tick, tick and gave one copy to us. So for our record. So this is how sometimes we are creating formalities and thinking. Like if a report is saying everything is okay, the maintenance department will not be activated. They will be just sleeping because the reports are saying everything is okay. Even in same case, if you have a third party inspection companies and they are coming and just changing the sticker on your crane, on your slings, on your forklift, so what's the benefit? So that's why Saudi Aramco says your hand and eye are checking off the boxes in the checklist, but brain is not engaged or focused on the task. So what we have to do is checklists are not foolproof. We need to remember they may not have checklists for every possible variation or situations for all safety hazards. So you need to use your technical, logical, common sense. Sometime, like if a person is doing welding and the other one is doing painting, and both scientists they don't know what is going in the air and how things could be out of control, how the fire incident can happen. So it's a very, detailed responsibility, especially on your shoulder, because proactively you are responsible to identify hazards, and this is your major responsibility along with Saudi Aramco as a WPR. Now, checklists and procedures can only work if they are followed and completed properly with all your attention. Poor hazard identification and control. What is the result? Nearly this much number non-fatal and 4,000 fatal workplace injuries. The direct cost of injuries at work, like workers' compensation claims, medical costs, total approximately $250 billion annually. That's what Saudi Aramco is paying. And I would say it's a junk money. If Saudi Aramco can save that much money, they can launch so many other projects. We know that hazards exist and all that. We do so to avoid incidents and injuries. We make sure that all appropriate barriers are in place. So the biggest barriers, what we bring into place is there are usually two types of barriers: equipment and human. Either your facilities must have barriers to incident and injury, such as fixed gas detectors, emergency shutdown walls, emergency alerts, sensors, helmets, harnesses, and much more. So in equipment maintainability, sustainability, Saudi Aramco is excellent. But once they hire third-party services providers like the maintenance companies or the different kind of service providers, then they start facing different issues. So as a Saudi Aramco, they don't want any supplier or any vendor who is going to increase their accident graph, on their territory. So they don't want to see anybody to be killed on their side. And the second barrier is human, and human is more critical. That means the second barrier relies on people. In other words, means you. So humans are the front line of defense in normal operation and the last line of defense during non-normal operations. So both situations rely on the human to avoid incident. Now, here the examiner can create a question. A dash, dash, okay, dash are the front line of defense in normal operation and the dash of defense during non-normal operations. Or he can, and you can fill the option, accordingly. Otherwise, he can create another questions. Humans are the dash of defense in normal operations and the dash of defense during non-normal operations. No, both situations rely on human to avoid incident. So again, another. So he can give multiple options, and you need to remember. You need to remember that humans are the front line of defense only in normal operations. That means they are not highly hazardous operations or the processes. But whenever there is non-normal operations, anytime any abnormal condition can happen. So we don't rely on human. We start putting technology like artificial intelligence, robotic technology, plenty of equipment, safety devices, sensors, so many equipment we start putting, and start controlling this operation through technology. Like in one of my projects in Michigan State or one of the projects in UK, we designed the machines and we established the process flow in a way that the robots and the robotic technology will be eliminating human, especially from the hazardous areas or processes. And why the company was investing that much money? They were having open budget for safety. The reason is they don't want to see any human to be killed on site. So you have to complete exercise A in your workbook, but don't just find the answer here and there. You study part one, and now you must be capable to give the right answers. So try by yourself. Otherwise, take some help again from your presentation. or the book you have. How to, second part of this book is how to recognize and control hazards, because the first part was all about, unsafe conditions, unsafe acts, or what kind of hazards can be there, or the front line barrier or the second line barrier. Is all about human and equipment. And also we discuss about the value of this hazard identification and the value of effective controls. But now in depth we're going to discuss how to recognize and control hazards practically. Now, how to recognize and control hazards? So in this part, you will be learning about what categories of hazards, because Aramco made our life easy by giving some categories of hazards, and also they gave some methods, how to recognize the hazards and how to control hazards. So three important areas we're going to learn. But remember, the purpose of hazard recognition, it is to find hazard and put in place controls and precautions to eliminate or reduce the hazards. So we need to find a way or putting some control which can eliminate or reduce the hazard to an acceptable level before they cause an incident. Okay. So make sure we understand all three important areas like categories of hazards, recognizing hazards, and controlling. So what are the categories, how to recognize, what are the best methods, and of course the controlling methodologies. Now, let's remind ourselves what are the common causes of incidents in Saudi Aramco. So we discussed already, there are plenty of common, like especially the number one is not following safety rules and regulations, disabling devices, plenty of other reasons. So let's try to understand, there are two main categories of hazards which can destroy the people, the environment, and assets of our business. So they are safety hazards or health hazards. So two types of hazards are there mentioned by Saudi Aramco. Okay, so just remember how many types of or categories of hazards are there: safety hazards and health hazards. So two categories. Now, what is safety hazard? A safety hazard is anything that can have adverse impact on your safety. So it's a safety hazard. And what is a health hazard? A health hazard is anything that can have an adverse impact on your health. Now, what are the methods to identify hazards in the work permit process? They are like, we can go for GSI, joint site inspection. Okay. We can use work permit system and forms. Hazard analysis checklist is also part of work permit system form. So you will be able to complete work permit forms properly during the joint site inspection for activities in construction, maintenance, inspection, and even repair. On permanent forms, you must be able to identify and control the hazards in the following sections. So there are different sections. So section 2 is belong to hazard identification and control. So you must be able to fill that section, like what kind of what kind of hazards can be there, what kind of formats you need to fulfill, what kind of energy is going to be there, what methods you need to use for isolation. Like subpart section 2D is all about potential, you know, exposures and even the protective equipment. And so it's not like tick only. You just need to make sure that the relevant things are well in place. And same way you fill hazard analysis checklist as well. Now, what is control measure? So steps you are going to take to remove or reduce a hazard by what? Engineering. And under engineering, either we eliminate, this is all about as per Saudi Aramco, don't mix with the NIBOSH or IOSH theories and some others. So as per Saudi Aramco, the number one step is engineering, and under engineering, there are sub steps or processes like eliminate, change solvent based paint to water based paint. This is an example. Isolate like noise employer, or you put lockout tag out, or blinding. But blinding, the locally fabricated blinds can only be used once. and make sure the rating capacity of the blind is well considered before you use this blind. Now, administrative, reduce rotate through using warning. So you put some policies, rules, procedures, warning signs, having some rotational crew rules, and the way to reduce some of the risk, and also otherwise protective equipment. So first you try engineering controls, then you try administrative, and at the end you start using PPs or RP, respiratory protective equipment, like SCABA and SABA, like self-contained breathing apparatus, or SABA, supplied air breathing apparatus. Now, so he can create a question here, what are the steps we need to take to remove or reduce a hazard? And the options are engineering, administrative, protective equipment, all of the above, or eliminate, reduce, or RP, and then all of the above. So you must be capable how to create a question and how to give the answers out of each slide. You must be now capable to complete your exercise B. Okay, after this, now the third part, which is a little bit lengthy because it's all about common workplace hazards. So let's start. There are 8 different parts or modules. Common workplace hazards, working at height, heavy equipment, excavation, ensuring hazardous material, H2s, fire and explosion, emergency preparedness. So what we're going to discuss, hazards and their controls, and of course some precautions. For all 8 modules, we'll be just discussing, I repeat again, the important triangle like hazards, controls, and precautions. So we will discuss all these things, but in each part separately. So let's start with common workplace hazards. I'll be a little bit more faster. The reason is mostly the guys already working in the industry, so they understand what are the common workplace hazards, or working at height, or heavy equipment. So I'll just make sure this video is not going to be so much lengthy, so you start boring up by yourself. So, but let me still complete. So slip, trip, and fall is a common workplace hazard. So uneven floor surfaces and changes in level, unsuitable floor coverings, and this is another example of hazard, and wet floors and trailing cables. So if these hazards are there, or even poor housekeeping. So slip, trip, and fall hazard, mostly as per Saudi Aramco theories, these are the 4 major hazards. So now what are the controls then? Because I told you, we will discuss hazards and their controls. What Aramco is saying, use handrail when using stairs and report hazards immediately. So this is another important element. Please convince and motivate your employees to report. Report immediately if they see any hazard, like sharp edges are there, any step broken, or any ladder is uneven on the floor. So make sure they report immediately. Wear correct footwear. That means anti-slippery footwear. Good housekeeping is critical. You can watch few videos of slip, slip, and fall, even on OSHA website, or otherwise on YouTube. So tools and equipment. What are the hazards? Using defective tools and equipment is a hazard. Electrocution, electrical shocks and burns is another terrible hazard. So tools and equipment, cuts, bruises, and abrasion hazards, and flying objects. So what are the controls then? So sometime the examiner will be asking controls against one hazard, or maybe sometime he will give controls and gonna say these controls belong to which type of hazard here. So it's a two-way, because it's a hazard control, hazard recognition and control book. So he will be asking, questions mostly in that certain way. Now, immediately report defective tools and equipment to your supervisor. Homemade tools are prohibited. Use correct tools and equipment, quite common sense. I'll not put more time because you guys understand already. Inspect tools and equipment before use. Let's talk about noise and vibration. What hazards can be there? Noise induced deafness above 85 decibel. This is the legal requirement. Below 85, we are allowed to work for 8 hours. above than 85 decibel, of course, we need earplug or EMF, or we need some better, engineering controls to reduce that impact, like better maintenance of machines, greasing, oil, and all. Nerve damage due to vibration, white fingers can happen. So, what controls we required? Noise reducing enclosures, like replace equipment or processes with quieter ones. Limit employee exposure, put some administrative ground, like make some rules, periodic breaks. You can put some warning signs as well. Personal protective equipment like earplug or earmuffs. Machine guarding is another way around. Any moving part on the machine must be have a guard. Why? Because there are hazards belong to machine guarding, like entanglement, being pulled in, cuts, abrasions, amputations, hot surfaces, cold surfaces, or even parts of machinery can be ejected, right? Striking workers and impact with planted equipment like fin fan blade failure. And make sure you understand some controls even, but remember this is the important, very important line, like moving parts to be guarded if less than dash above the working surface. So examiner have a more chance to create easily some questions wherever you see some numbers, technical numbers, or like moving parts to be guarded if less than dash above the working surface. So remember 2.5 or 8.2 feet. Examples can be flywheels, belt chain drives. Guards shall be installed before arrival on site, in position during operation as well, and reinstalled before the equipment is returned. You can see some videos on YouTube. Plant isolation or lockout tagger. Look at, one picture is more louder than 1,000 words even. So you just need to make sure all sort of energies like electrical, mechanical, gravity, motion, pressure, like hydraulic or pneumatic, or any sort of energy, you first need to isolate and then make sure it's properly lockout tagger before you start your activity or start your project, right? So what hazards still can be there? Release of energy types can be chemicals, can be mechanical, can be electrical, can be hydraulic, can be pneumatic as well. Even spring-loaded gravity. So these are different types of energies which we truly need to control through lockout, tagout, or isolation. So what are the best controls? Look at the picture. Before opening closed systems align, they shall be what? Depressurized. So that is number one. So all the closed systems, first of all, must be depressurized. And then make sure you drain out. You drain out all the hazardous liquid or even non-hazardous liquid. You need to drain it. And then you start purging, or even before purging, if cleaning is required, like can be water wash, can be steaming. Otherwise, purging would be a better option. Like purging means we can use nitrogen for purging, and this is how we try to create a safe haven for our employees uh, to complete their job actually. Now, GI 6.012, this is all about isolation, lockout, and use of hold tags. And we studied this book on the fourth day, actually. And right after studying this book, there would be an exam on the same day. And you need to achieve 80%, remember. But your target must be 100%, so I'm sure you will achieve 80% for inshallah. Now, confined spaces. Look at the picture. What hazards can be there? First, you must think, rather than just following Saudi Aramco. So first, use your brain and start thinking what hazards can be there. Otherwise, see the list of Saudi Aramco. There could be oxygen deficiency, like less than 20% as per Saudi Aramco, less than 19.5% as per OSHA. Oxygen enrichment may be above than 23.5%. Flammable materials can be there. Toxic material like H2s, hydrogen sulfide, or carbon monoxide, or extreme temperature. So what controls you require? Make sure you have a permit, first of all, CSC permit, proper preparation is there, and use checklist, proper isolation, gas testing, mechanical ventilation, and there can be so many other controls also, but generally within this book, Ramco just mentioned few of the controls. Make sure you understand the hazards related to pressure testing. Look at the picture. Mechanical or brittle failure of equipment under test. Mechanical or brittle failure of equipment under test. Relief system failure could happen. Uncontrolled release of pressure testing material, not treated water or even inert gas. Now, what are the best controls? Use the correct what tested material or test equipment, or notify others with barriers and signage. Isolate the area, stay out of the line of fire. I have given plenty of trainings on stay out of the line of fire to Saudi Aramco guys, even because we truly need to understand what is this line of fire. So there is GI 2.102 pressure testing safety. Now, weather conditions, what hazards can be there? High wind speeds, extreme temperatures, and high humidity. And look at the chart here. Is like, the heat stress plan is there. Like, if the 29 to 25 to 29 is a caution, like fatigue still could possible. It's a normal schedule. But extreme caution, 30 to 38 degree, if that temperature is there, make sure you understand there could be heat cramps or heat exhaustion or even heat stroke possible. So make sure you just work for 50 minutes and 10 minutes break. And if it is 39 to 51, and even though it's a very danger zone, heat cramps or heat exhaustion or heat stroke likely could happen. And make sure if you still are bound to work, make sure you work 30 minutes and 10 minutes break. And if you still want to kill your employees and you still want to work above than 52 degree, then make sure you understand there is a possibility of immediate heat stroke. And what you have to do is 20 minutes work and 10 minutes break. Now, what are what are the best controls against weather conditions? Make sure you understand the wind speed limit for the use of crane, like 32 km per hour maximum, and then man basket 25 km per hour, scaffolding 65 km per hour, and even prevent entry into flooded excavation. So what you have to do is remove water prior to entry. So as an examiner, what he can ask, oh, crane, the wind speed limit for the crane dash, for man basket dash, for scaffolding dash, or he can give multiple options. So out of these three lines, he can create four different questions, maybe one question for crane, one question for man basket, one question for wind speed of scaffolding, and vice versa, he can create some other questions as well. So make sure you understand his first plan by providing sufficient water. Yes, PPs, I'll not take more time here, but there are certain hazards. If you have helmet and you're not wearing, is a hazard. Metal helmets, is a hazard. Damaged helmets, helmet with peak at the back, expiry date. What are the controls? Make sure you have approved helmets only, no defects. Metal helmets are prohibited. Ensure internal harness installed correctly. And there are some hazards related to safety shoes or safety footwear. Not wearing safety footwear is a hazard. No slip protection, old or damaged footwear, no heel for climbing ladders, no toe protection. That, like here, steel toe is not there, so it's a hazard. So what are the controls? Make sure no sandals are there. Provide footwear based on the job hazard. Workers to wear approved footwear and replace a worn or damaged. In the work permit system or this WPR training, we can't teach anything else other than Saudi Aramco. So that's why you have to play within the theory of Saudi Aramco, or at some level you can follow some OSHA standards also, because Saudi Aramco also derived a lot of safety regulations from OSHA USA. Now, footwear has a heel if climbing ladders. Eye and face protection, what hazards can be there? Failure to wear, incorrect protection, worn or damaged protection, use of prescription lenses only. What controls you required? Approved eye wear with sight protection. If flying objects may injure the eye or face, wear additional protection and goggles, face shield, or make sure you always check CHB like chemical hazard bulletin, especially for hazardous material specific protection as well. FRC is all about flame resistant or fire resistant clothing, but still some hazards are there. Not worn correctly is a hazard. Fire, welding, sparks, electrical arc flash, or hot or cold subsidies are some hazards. What are the controls? Make sure it is preventing from fire. Fire prevention is there. FRC worn correctly, washed and cleaned correctly also. So remember the GI 2.721. arc crash mitigation PPE is there. PPs like hearing protection, some hazards are there like high noise areas, failure to wear hearing protection, noise-induced hearing loss, infections, and what controls we required. Wear protection above 85 decibel, otherwise be ready to be deaf. Check with environmental protection be like EPD. Aramco had different divisions like environmental protection, EPD is there, loss prevention division like LPD is there. They have PID, project inspection, they have QID, so plenty of divisions are there. So you can get help from them. Don't be afraid, don't be scared. Saudi Aramco as a customer is there to help you, to support you. So don't have any kind of unnecessary scary behavior, If you don't have something like you don't have GIs or any particular procedures or policies or something like that, ask Saudi Aramco guys and they'll be helping you for sure, inshallah. If they don't help, if they show some arrogance, talk to your safety manager and he will find the way. Correct height, noise reduction provided, audiometry test, and good hand hygiene when installing. Yes, gloves also have some hazards. So as an examiner, he can ask some hazards related to gloves, giving some options and asking you which option belong to this gloves, as a hazard. So not wearing hand protection, incorrect glove for the job, injuries such as what cuts, bruises, burns, infections, and what controls we require? Wear hand protection suitable to your job. Check CHPF using chemical or hazardous material. Replace gloves if worn, damaged, or contaminated. PPs like respiratory protective equipment, what hazards can be there? Look at the picture. Inhalation, breathing of what hazardous dust, mist vapors, or toxic gases such as H2s or carbon monoxide. Asbestos fibers, one of the leading killer or having this lung cancer. Incorrect equipment selection, poor face seal would be a problem and protection features exceeded. So make sure you understand some of the controls. Look at the picture because one picture is more louder than 1,000 words, right? So gas sampling is critical. Make sure you have authorized gas tester, wear the correct RP, respiratory protective equipment. RP is suitable for the hazard. If unsure, check with EPD, environmental protection division. Otherwise, check with your safety manager at least. Follow good hygiene practice, ensure RP is clean, use SCBA and or SABA, supplied air breathing apparatus. Look at the picture. You can see some, these videos related to SCABA and SABA on YouTube or even go to OSHA website. Personal H2s monitor, look at T40 Rattler is well accepted by Saudi Aramco as a personal monitors in areas where dangerous concentration of hydrogen sulfide may be encountered. And a personal monitor never replaces a gas testing device. So you need to remember that one. Maybe they can give a true false. Or personal monitor can replace a gas testing device. No. A personal monitor never replaces a gas testing device. So you can see a T40 Rattler video on YouTube or wherever you find the way out. Complete exercise C and make sure you understand the real crux and all technical logical points. I know you can't memorize every word of the presentation, but at least clear your concept and all technical points where you believe the examiner can create a question. You must be having this answer. The number 2 module of the part 3 is working at height. And before you start studying Aramco theories, you can prepare a list of what equipment normally we use for working at height, and then what hazards can be there and how the control should be in place. But anyhow, let's see what Aramco is saying. So there are elevated work platforms, and let's see one example. Unauthorized use as a hazard. Uncertified operators of this man lift or tipping over is possible. Structural collapse, sudden collapse, and mechanical failure falls from height. What controls? Make sure you have certified operators, not only for this man lift, even for all other heavy equipments. Make sure you have certified operators. Inspection before use and use only on even surfaces, not on uneven surfaces. Occupants must remain inside at all times and harnesses worn and attached to the anchor point. And the capacity of this anchor point must be minimum 5,000 pounds. Ladders, look at the picture. Now, what hazards can be there? Ladder looks seems in a very poor condition. Falls from height is there. Incorrect size, type, use. What controls you require? Look at the picture. It's the best way. Like make sure inspection before use. Secure the top and from here to here minimum 1 meter or 3 feet. Provide stable foot secure. The footing must be well secure. Slope ratio 4:1, that means 75-degree angle. Face ladder when climbing. While you are climbing up, make sure you face the ladder, not left or right. 3 points of contact when working from the ladder. So 3 points of contact, either 2 hands, 1 feet, or 2 feet, 1 hand. Make sure you have 3 points of contact. Never work off the top of the ladder. Don't try to work here. Scaffolding, only two hazards, falling and collapse. Falling can be objects, equipment, and people, and scaffolding collapse. So let's understand the controls. Safe means of entry and exit, gates, drop bars, fall protection, safety lines and harnesses we required, nuts we required, tools and equipment must be secured. But the most important is safe means of entry and exit. So first, this is the foundational requirement, especially at the gates and drop bars. Normally in Saudi electricity or even in some other, I didn't notice that they have some drop bars, but in Saudi Aramco, for any scaffolding, make sure there is a drop bars at the gates even. Controls, what controls you required? Regular inspection, use of scuff tags like, valid inspection date and 2 weeks maximum between inspections. So the scaffolding inspection must be within 14 days. After 14 days, after 2 weeks, if you are inspected, still is a violation, but GI 8.001 safety requirements for scaffolds will help you to understand more deeply about scaffolding safety requirements. What basic checks we require? Make sure the material is good, make sure it looks straight, 90-degree, not leaning, and no evidence of collision damage or no gaps in the planks. And if the gap is, no gap in the planks is ideal. But if gap is unavoidable, make sure it shouldn't be more than 1 inch. I repeat again, it shouldn't be more than this gap. If there is no gap, is ideal. If the gap is unavoidable, it shouldn't be more than 1 inch. Okay, I hope you got the point. So toe board fitted, but the minimum height of the toe board, like, at the working platform, make sure minimum height is 4 inches per Saudi Aramco. Material, the tools not stored as the closed edges, the open edges. Ladder, it must be in good condition, no damage, no missing part, correct length, you know, correct length. Safe means for getting on and off. The ladder, gate, drop bar, post and level surface on the on sill boards or sole boards. We can use different tags like red tag, do not use scaffold, yellow tag, full body harness required, and green tag, scaffold complete, no harness required. So he can create 3 different questions by using these lines. So remember, red tag means do not use scaffold. Yellow tag means full body harness is required. Green tag means scaffold complete, no harness is required. Tag and hold numbers match. Make sure tag has not been reused. Fixed in a structure so it cannot fall down. Signed by scaffold supervisors above 1.8 meter to 6 meters. Scaffolding inspector above 6 meter. And inspection valid for 2 weeks. So wherever you see number, there is a possibility of question to be raised by the examiner. So make sure wherever you see number, these are important information you have to remember. You have to remember some information related to scaffolding, some information related to heavy equipment, some information related to confined space, H2s, so what you are doing, you just try to get maximum logical technical points and the words and make sure your concepts are clear and go ahead for the exam and things would be very easy for you. Watch few videos on YouTube related to scaffolding incidents or accidents for your better understanding. Fall protection, what hazards are there? Failure to wear, like you have full body harness but you don't know how to wear, how to tie up properly. Failure to secure to a fixed point, sometimes the fixed point is not being used and sometimes the fixed point is there, like anchor point is there, but you didn't, the capacity is not 5,000 pounds, it's very weak, poor quality equipment is there. damage harness or line. So what controls you require? Make sure the user is well trained, inspect before each use, protect from sharp edges, remove damaged equipment, you know, and waist belts are prohibited. You truly need to remember waist belts are prohibited. And this is another important technical point you need to remember. Shock absorbing lanyards secure at least 18 feet above surface. That means 5.6 feet. So shock absorbing lanyards secure at least 18 feet above surface. So this would also be helping you to understand, and it's an important line, and maybe the examiner can create a question here also. Fall protection, where the correct fall protection equipment might save your life. So complete exercise D, and I'm expecting no mistake. Okay. Try to understand the question and the multiple options and choose the right one. Heavy equipment, let's start with that one. Movement hazards are there, like run over by a heavy vehicle, struck by, crushed by materials being moved, or crushed, caught between equipment and object, electrocution by contact with overhead power lines, buried cables. What controls you require? Equipment well inspected, operated by certified operators, maintain safe distance, and keep an eye contact with the operator. Even the certificate is expired yesterday of any crane operator, don't let him use or operate crane, okay? Exclusion zone must be there and spotter like a signal man or signal person, and wear high visibility clothing. Make sure the certification also have some hazards identified by Saudi Aramco, like used by uncertified operators, load rigged incorrectly resulting in dropped objects. And what are the controls? Authorization for high risk activity, example, man basket, tandem lifts, and even critical lifts. You need special authorization and certifications. GI 7.025 is relevant to certification of equipment operators and riggers. Now let's talk about some hazards related to cranes, failure to rigging, ropes and slings, okay? Contact with overhead power lines, because overhead power lines is a very terrible hazard indeed. And you truly have to, not only overhead power lines, even underground, like underground power lines are also there, underground cables in other words. So toppling over, contact with people and equipment, overloading, these are some of the hazards. What are the controls? Make sure there is inspection by the operator every day or before use, barriers and signage. Signs are there, valid inspection sticker, crane operators are well certified, critical lift plans are there, and critical lift plan should be approved by the rigger level 1, 2, 3 as per the loads. Now, critical lift plan, when do we need? Any part of the crane whose boom is within 10 meters, 33 feet of any. So, examiner can create a question here. Any part of the crane whose boom is within 10 meters or 33 feet of any hydrocarbon piping, pressurized piping areas, populated traffic areas, crane lift that requires attachment to main boom. Loads of 40 tons or greater, loads that exceed 85% of the crane rated capacity, any crane lift with hazards from explosion, fire, high heat, any crane working near energized power lines. And this is another important point you need to remember. Saudi Aramco certified rigger 1 approves critical lift plans. So whenever there is a load of 40 tons or greater, or the load that exceeds 85% of the crane's rated capacity, you need a rigger level 1 to prepare the critical lift plan or even to approve it. You can see some videos related to crane incidents and accidents on YouTube or go to OSHA website. Forklifts, what hazards can be there? Unauthorized use, uncertified operators, rollover, impact with personal equipment, drop materials. What are the best controls? Trained and certified operator, daily inspection checklist, but not the tick, tick, tick. Make sure they're doing it genuinely. No standing or riding on the forks, and no walking under the raised forks or loads, So you no standing on the riding on the forks. So forks means, let me just show what are the forks, So these are the forks. So what he's saying, no standing or riding on the forks and no walking under the raised loads. Like if the load is raised, you can't walk, under by. Backup warning must be working well, and seat belt and safety devices must be operational. You can complete exercise E. Don't complete any exercise until you understand, you are confident, and make sure you have zero mistake. Okay, zero wrong answer. Otherwise, don't complete. Don't complete any exercise until you are fully confident. And make sure before you go for third-party training institute to join 4 days training, this presentation and my videos will be helping you a lot. So maybe you can start watching, start listening like 2 weeks before, and then you go for the institute, and they will still give you 4 days training. So imagine you'll be rocking, inshallah. Your result will be excellent because you are proactive. You already started your preparation. You are learning a lot and through these videos and through your self-learning passion, and now you again going to get 4 days training in the third-party institute, and of course there will be the exam and your result will be excellent for sure, inshallah. Maybe 100%, maybe above the 95%. It should be above the 95 or at least 100%. Less than 95, that means you ignored my videos and you didn't take proper training at the center as well. So excavation and shoring is another, what we are talking about, hazards and control. So let's talk about excavation. So what hazards can be there? Collapse or cave in or side walls can collapse. So very dangerous because of suffocation, no oxygen, immediately the person can die. Oxygen deficiency would be there, toxic gas, flammable gas, striking underground cables or pipes, flooding. So these are some of the hazards related to excavation. What are the controls? Make sure we have confined space entry permit if more than 1.2 meter or 4 feet. So any place which is any excavated area or trench which is deeper than 1.2 meter or 4 feet is a confined space. So required confined space entry permit as per Saudi Aramco. Proper planning and design is critical. Barriers and warning signs. Exclusion zone must be identified. Heavy equipment kept 2 meter like 6.5 feet away from the edge of the excavation or depth of the excavation, whichever is greatest. It's very much important point. He can create a question here. Heavy equipment kept 2 meter, like 6.5 feet away from the edge of the excavation. If there is no underground hazard or the depth of the excavation, which are greatest. Like if depth is 10 feet, you keep 10 feet away your heavy equipment. You park 10 feet away. If the excavation depth is 15 feet, you park 15 feet away from the edge of the excavation. And the second is only excavating and backfilling equipment are permitted within 2 meters of the edge of an excavation. What are the control checklists to be used for all excavations? Pre-excavation checklist, excavation inspection checklist, attach checklist to the permit, because otherwise the permit would not be signed. And make sure you understand good shoring inside excavation protects from what? This is good shoring. Look at the picture. One picture is more louder than 1,000 words. Cave-in of side walls. Ground collapse can also be saved. Slippage of spoil. And remember the spoil to be at least 60 centimeter or 2 feet from the edge. So from this edge, minimum 2 feet away. So it should not go back in the excavated area, Know the soil type. So a qualified person is required who can understand the soil types and to design the excavation methods accordingly. So there are, 3 types or 4 types of soils, you can say, but 3 types are more like, because there is stable rock like natural solid mineral matter. There is soil type A. There is soil type B, which is less, stronger comparing to soil type A or stable rock. And there is soil type C, which is least stable or the weak one, like the sand we have above the floor. Sloping or benching more than 6 meter or 20 feet, sloping or benching more than 6 meter or 20 feet. So that point also you need to remember. And what is sloping and benching? You can go to YouTube, watch some videos and see how it looks like. Designed by a qualified engineer. Buried cable, some of the hazards are there, like digging up live cables with backhoe, jackhammer contacting live cables, hand digging around live cables. What controls you required? Identify and mark cables and surfaces before digging. Use cable drawings and plans. Use cable locating devices and safe digging hand practice. So these are some of the controls related to buried cables. You can watch few videos on the YouTube or go to OSHA website. Complete the exercise. I repeat again, don't complete until you are confident that there wouldn't be any mistake or you'll not choose any wrong answer. Hazardous materials, the module number 5. Look at the picture. The hazardous material, they can be toxic, flammable, reactive, chemical burns could be there, irritant and corrosive as well. What we require, make sure you have CHB as per Saudi Aramco, like chemical hazard bulletins, has some labels are there, proper labeling, Eliminator substitute, you can watch few YouTube videos on HAZCOM, hazard communication, so you will have better understanding. Correct storage, correct PPs, spill containment equipment must be there. Compressed gas cylinders, very critical and very dangerous element, and especially in oil and gas operations, may contain what flammable materials, toxic materials, poor storage like full and empty stored together, lack of separation from incompatible materials, exposure to heat and sunlight, and exposure to pressure, and also transportation. What control you require? Look at the picture. Identify contents, store out of the direct sunlight, separate incompatible materials, separate full and empty cylinders. What controls you require? Store and upright position, secure during transportation, flashback arrestor for oxygen and settling cylinders, good housekeeping, and also make sure the good housekeeping, not only the visible areas, even the hidden areas. Asbestos containing material like ACM, what are the hazards? Difficult to identify, first of all. Airborne fibers, dangerous to lungs. No short-term health symptoms, but long-term permanent health effects. What controls you require? Clearly identified and warning signs are posted. Wet methods used for removal. Eating, drinking, and smoking prohibited when working with ACM. What other controls you require? You can use PPs or RP to be used for ACM work. Dry cleanup methods prohibited, such as sweeping or shoveling, because otherwise it will go again to the air and inhale. You can breathe in. And the problem is, asbestos is once gone into your lungs, they'll never come out. They'll be further penetrating, even though the short term is not so dangerous, but long term is permanent health effects, maybe the lung cancer. Sweeping or shoveling. So if you want to learn more about asbestos waste, you can go with GI 150.001, how to manage and control asbestos waste. Painting and coatings, some hazards are there, like a flammable atmosphere, oxygen deficiency, skin and breathing hazards, long-term permanent ill health effects, storage, poor housekeeping. So what control you required? Make sure you have trained operator, check CHB or MSCS for precautions, wear correct PPEs and container closed or sealed, when not in use, good housekeeping, and make sure the guys understand, the painters and the coaters, that no electrical items or any hot work shouldn't be nearby. Otherwise, there would be a terrible fire incident. Abrasive blasting, look at the picture. A lot of hazards are there, like considered to be hot work, first of all, may create an ignition source, high noise level, and health hazards from silica sand. That is why silica sand is prohibited in Saudi Aramco. Poor housekeeping, low skilled workforce is another hazard. So what control you required? Make sure you have hot work permit, especially in restricted areas. Operators to be tested and certified. Yeah, a very much important point. Certified coating inspector level 2. He can create a question here. Operators to be tested and certified by dash. WPR, WPI, certified coating inspector level 2, or none of the above. So make sure you remember, certified coating inspector level 2 is authorized to testify and certify the operators. Wear PPEs including heavy protection and good housekeeping. Use of silica sand is prohibited, as I mentioned earlier. Ionizing radiations, yes, radiation sources have different strengths. Extremely hazardous to your health, short and long-term ill health effects, non-naturally occurring radioactive material. What controls are there? Time, distance, and shielding. Either you reduce time, or you put some more distance, or you have shielding. Same like for welding process, because welding also have some radiation. We get radiation from sun, we get radiation from X-ray rooms. there are certain processes which create different kind of radiations. All work under the control of radiation protection officer must be there, like RPO, radiation protection officer. Use personal monitoring and protection when using and handling ionizing radiations, use of warning signs, and these are GIs like 150.003, 150.005, 6, and 7, 4 GIs relevant to ionizing radiations, especially to be approved as a RPO is not easy to get approval as a RPO from Saudi Arabia. Complete your exercise G, but again, remember, let me repeat again, don't complete until you understand all the technical points and make sure the zero mistake is there, like zero answer, zero wrong answer, I would say. Go with module number 6, hydrogen sulfide, H2s. Where is H2s found? Look at the picture. Producing operations, exporting operations, stabilizations, refining, storage, drilling, and work over like GOSP, like gas oil separation plants, pumps, compressors, pipelines, sewage treatment areas. So what are the properties of H2S? Extremely toxic, extremely flammable, and you can check the CHB also, like chemical hazard bulletin. Highly reactive with oxidizers, colorless, heavier than air, soluble in water, like forms a weak acid, reacts with metals to form sulfides, and asphyxiate, like causing suffocation, and also soluble in hydrocarbons. So also have a rotten egg smell, but at the level of 0.01 ppm. Smell is misleading at higher concentration, as you will not be able to smell it. So don't lie on your nose. Always you must have a testing device like T40 rattler, or there must be authorized gas testers to tell you what is the H2S level, especially in the confined space. Travels with wind and will settle in lower areas because H2S is heavier than air. So make sure you understand that one, because it is 20% heavier than air. So flammable, like what is the flammability of H2S? LEL, lower explosive limit is 4.3%, and UEL, upper explosive limit, is equal to 46%, and 1% is equal to 10,000 ppm. 1% is equal to 10,000 ppm, parts per million. So LEL 4.3% is equal to 4.3 multiplied 10,000 is equal to 43,000 LEL ppm, and UEL, upper explosive rate, like 46% multiply 10 is equal to 10,000 is equal to 460,000, 4,60,000 ppm. So this is LEL, lower explosive limit, and upper explosive limit. So in between, if you're playing, it's okay. Otherwise, lower or above than 46, of course, the flammability level would be really critical. So in between, it can start firing like 4.3 to 46%. Now, irritant to eye, nose, and throat, and reacts with strong oxidizers may explode in contact with nitric acid. So he can create a question here. What is the LDL of H2S? He can give different options. What's going to happen when H2S reacts with, or in contact with nitric acid? Or that means may explode. Or he can create a question, may explode when H2S may explode when in contact with dash. He can give again different options. So remember, the flammable range of H2S is 4.3% to 46%. Reacts with steel also, but remember, produces pyrophoric iron sulfide. So he can create a question as an examiner, like H2S reacts. When H2S reacts with steel, it produces dash, and he can give multiple options. But you need to remember pyrophoric iron sulfide. Now, health effects. You must be understanding the health effects of H2S. It can like a poison, because it's a highly poisonous gas. So, but the more H2S inside, the less will be the oxygen, and no oxygen is equal to no life. So in low concentration through nose and mouth, body breaks it down over time, and high concentration through nose and mouth, body unable to break it down, paralyzes your breathing, and in low concentration over time, different, like pneumonia, migraine, headache, and different kind of motor skills coordination. issues are there. So H2s detection, look at, there are three systems like fixed systems and plants, portable gas monitors, or like portable gas monitors, what are the names? Like MX4 Vantage and MX6 hybrid. And for personal monitor, T40 reactor. So the examiner again can create few questions out of this slide. Like what are the names of portable gas monitors, MX4 Vantage, MX hybrid, or personal monitor like T40 Rattler. And there are fixed systems and plants attached with the alarm system. Hazardous effects like company standards, the ventilation must be there. Sorry, what could be the control measures? The ventilation must be there, the cleaning. Cleaning can be water wash, can be steaming, ventilation can be mechanical, or the blower we can use, or breathing apparatus, gloves, safety glasses or goggles. You can see even the CHP chemical has bulletin, CHP 155, safety boots or shoes. What precautions we need to follow? Post warning signs, monitor for H2s, no wind direction, conduct gas tests before issuing permits, work with the standby man, wear SCBA and SABA, and ventilation of work area. An emergency response plan responsibilities must be there. Use the buddy system, emergency response, alarm response, and working in ideal actually. When do we use buddy system? Again, three options can be there. And the fourth option, he can create all of the above. Responsibilities of standby man, remember, is responsible for monitoring personnel for H2S exposure, proper use of H2S detection equipment, monitoring strategy, responsible of standby man, standby personnel include what? Securing the work area, monitoring wind direction, notification for emergency assistance if required. What emergency action we need to take against H2S? Remember these some steps. Evacuate immediately, sound the alarm, assess the situation, protect rescue personnel, rescue victims, revive victims, get victim medical aid or assistance immediately. Remove contaminated clothing if there is H2S. Flush eyes with water for at least 15 minutes. Important point, you can create a question here. If qualified, administer oxygen, wait for qualified medical help. You can watch some H2S video on YouTube or go to OSHA website for your better understanding how H2S can be terrible and it can kill within minutes, like 10 ppm, below 10 ppm, we can work 8 hours, but 10 ppm to 100 ppm without scab or sub is not allowed. And above than 100 ppm or above, no entry, no work at all. Complete exercise H, don't complete until you, have full understanding or technically sound, because consider these exercises as an exam and make sure you achieve 100% marks in every exercise. Now, fires and explosion, the number 7 module, the hazard like fire and explosion hazard, hot work, liquid carbon or gas leaks, sources of ignition, accumulated trash would be there, smoking in non-designated area. These are some of the hazards of fires and explosions. What controls? Make sure you have hot work permit, monitoring of work. We need fire watcher, basically gas testing for authorized gas tester, areas vetted, and fire barriers or shields in place, good housekeeping, combustible materials removed, fire extinguisher and equipment is there. Cutting, brazing, and welding, what hazards can be there? Because all are hot works. Fires and explosion build up of flammable gas, toxic vapors, oxygen depleting gases or vapors, extreme light, electric welding flash, defective equipment or unskilled operators. So what we need to put some controls, equipment inspections before use, hot work permit must be used, and ventilate area, gas testing in confined spaces. What are the controls? Make sure you have welding screens for electric welding, flashback arresters, or settling oxygen cylinders, equipment turned off or isolated at shift end. And what are the controls you required, especially in hydrocarbon facilities? Make sure you cover or water seal sewers within 23 meters or 75 feet of all ignition sources. This is an important point. He can create a question here. And also another important point is hot work is not permitted above 0% LEA. Might be he can create true or false, like hot work is allowed above 0% LEL, true or false. So you must have to remember above 0% LEL, no hot protocol. Fire protection equipment shall be readily available. Cutting, welding, or open flame fire wash shall remain for no less than 30 minutes. So that's another important point. Combustible material shall be protected against sparks, welding, slag, or heat. Open fires or open burning requires an authorization from Saudi Aramco Fire Protection Department, like FPD. We need fire watcher. It must be designated by the issuer, but mostly now the Saudi Aramco is saying to the suppliers, please bring your fire watcher as well, but third party certified. But he must be capable and understand the hazards from the hot work, precautions to prevent fires, precautions for raising the alarm, monitors hot work activities, ensure fire equipment readily available, trained in using fire equipment. So he must be capable, knowledgeable, technically sound person. Electrical arc flash fire hazards. Yes, there are possible fires related to electrical arc flash, electric shock can happen, exposure to what arc flash and arc blast. Extreme light and sound energy can also be there. So what control you require? Look at the picture. Hot work permit, lockout tagger, ground fault circuit interrupter like GFCI, approach boundaries for live work, and qualified individuals wearing PPs to work electrical equipment. And certified electrical equipment must be there. What other electrical fire hazard? Damaged power cords, overloading extensions, unsafe space heaters, accumulated trash, poor storage and housekeeping. And make sure you have some regular inspections. UL, like underwriter laboratories, listed equipment can only be accepted by Saudi Aramco, good housekeeping. Use GFCI, ground for circuit interrupter, fire extinguisher, the active, the good one, qualified person for maintenance. So complete exercise I, but make sure you have clear understanding and there shouldn't be any wrong answer, because consider these exercises as an exam, as a practice exam even. And the last module of this book is emergency preparedness. Even Aramco found a lot of issues with the orientation. What they have evaluated, there are certain hazards like employees are unaware about high risk work areas, local alarm sounds, correct actions on hearing alarm, muster points locations, your work is affected by the work of others, they are unaware. EULB like equipment opening line break, hot work. So what controls orientation for the site and work areas must be there, awareness of local alarm sounds, like different types of alarms are there, so make sure they are very much familiar, awareness of response actions required. Your attendance in the area is identified and log, visitors log. Surrounding jobs that may affect your work, that means CMOP. We call it simultaneous operations. Response plan is also having some hazards, lack of planning, generic plans that are not specific to the work or the job performed, the exact work site. Workers do not understand their role and responsibilities, worker not trained and response plan actions. Controls, you need written emergency response and rescue plans for all high risk work and jobs. Confined space work such as inert entry, make sure this response plan is fully tested through evacuation drills. Workers are aware of roles and responsibilities, and rescues trained to carry out the plan, and contractors plan fit with existing site rescue plan. It's not like suppliers plan is going this way and Saudi Aramco plan, emergency response plan is going this way. They must be on one page and must be, compatible. So then the benefits will be there. Reporting and responding to an emergency, Saudi Aramco have identified several hazards like worker does not know what is an emergency, how to report an emergency, actions to take, evacuation and muster location, no ability to report emergency. What controls we require? Know how to report an emergency, dial 911 because, if the training centers still have the same presentation like 110, so make sure you give the answer 110. If there is a question like what is the emergency phone number, but anyhow 911 is universal now. Radio call, training on what to do in an emergency, response actions required, alternative muster points must be there. So complete your last exercise J, and I'm sure it will be helping you, like, so this is like in few hours even you can complete your study, but don't try to memorize every word. Just make sure your concepts are clear. Technically, logically, you are gripping or having a strong grip only to the most important words or the technical areas which can be beneficial during the exam, and even the moment you will start working as a Saudi Aramco approved, this work permit receiver, then this knowledge must be. So our knowledge, what you can't apply is not beneficial. So make sure you learn and you start applying the moment you will be working as a WPR. So wish you good luck, and I hope this video will be very much beneficial. I'll make the other two also, like confined space and lockout dagger, and will upload on my channel, Best International Training Zone, inshallah. So summary is there. We discuss all three, like identify practices, hazards and conditions, methods, and recognize uh, common workplace hazards and associated controls. Yes, for hazard recognition, look at the form. So remember, hazard identification and analysis by itself does not make your work 100% safe. It is part of the largest safety process. Safe completion of your work can only be done by proper preparation and supervision, agreeing to the minimum safety precautions. So if you have any question, you can ask me through WhatsApp like 00966 598903439, or you can ask in the comment box. Subscribe my channel, Best International Training Zone. Help me to support our community, the global community. It's a global village. There shouldn't be any discrimination that this video should only be for Pakistanis or only for Indians or only for Bangladeshis. No, this is for anyone who is willing to work for Saudi Aramco as a work permit receiver, especially in Saudi Arabia. This video is for all of you, and I hope it will give you some energy before you go for your 4 days training. Thank you very much. Bye bye.